He's just like us, down on his luck. Can't get the love of his life to notice him and broke as hell. Sure, he can swing between the New York City skyline and make out with the prettiest girl upside down, but that doesn't stop him from being just another kid trying to figure it all out. So what's the point of being extraordinary if you can't even get a job? This is Spider-Man.
Spooderman.
Chris, this is like the movie.
It's the movie, yeah.
It's like the movie for us.
For us, yeah, I hear you on that because, to be clear for listeners, this is a movie we've built up for a while. It's like, oh, we'll get to this one eventually. This is a big movie.
It's probably this and Jurassic Park.
Yeah, 100%. Jurassic Park we'll get to one day. Just do us a favor, commenters. Just beg us to do Jurassic Park. It might happen a little quicker.
We'll probably just do it.
We might end up getting to it.
But like since the beginning of this podcast, we've been saying like Jurassic Park, that'll be like the 4-hour pod.
That's the one.
Be the epic one. No, yeah. If a lot of you comment, we'll probably just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, Spider-Man, I feel like, is the meeting ground for both you and me. Specifically this movie, specifically the Raimi Spider-Man movies in general. I feel like you and I have a lot of similar interests, but we divert paths a lot when it comes to what kind of movies we like, TV shows, video games, etc., music. But I feel like this is always like we had a similar childhood with this movie. I don't read that many comics. I did read Spider-Man comics. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was one of the few comic books that I actually read.
You read Ultimate Spider-Man, right? Was that the one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And, he's just like, he's your guy. He's my guy,
Yeah.
This was such a defining movie for my childhood and for my adulthood, to be honest.
And for a lot of millennials too. I think, we can all kind of come together and be like, Tobey's my Spider-Man. Like, this is the energy we're going to have. We're not going to dunk on Andrew and Tom. We're not going to have that conversation on this show. We're here just purely to celebrate that very first, that pristine, pure childhood classic for a lot of us.
Yeah.
But before we get into that though, welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Chris,
and I'm Altaf,
and this is today we're gonna talk about how Spider-Man changed us.
And if you're watching this on Spotify, I fucked it up. If you're listening to that Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcast, know that you can also watch us on YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
And you do have a Patreon if anyone likes the show and wants to support this dumpster fire of an intro we're giving. You can go to patreon.com/movies that changed us, where you can get exclusive commentary tracks and other bonus content.
We recently finished up the Toy Story series. We watched all 4, did commentaries for them, and the 4th one Chris had never seen. So that's kind of like a first time watching. Yeah.
It's pretty much a first time watching, just in audio form.
Yeah. But before we get to the movie, Spooderman, what's some art that moved you this week?
So, okay. Well, I got 2 for you. One of them is you also consumed as well, so I'll jump into that second. The first one, this is more of a light, funny story. You were editing our episode on RoboCop. Because I typically, for peek behind the curtain listeners, I usually edit the first half and then you edit the second half.
Yes.
And so while you were editing the second half, I was going to work on the thumbnail and I had a little bit of free time while I was waiting for you to finish. And so I put on an early 2000s movie called Shallow Hal, which I haven't seen.
You did. You watched that movie.
It's free on YouTube with ads. I don't know how it popped up for me.
Can I give a little bit of a preamble?
Yeah, go for it.
Before you get into the movie?
Go for it.
You bring up this movie to me a lot.
There's a weird handful of not very good movies that just sort of enter my radar in
We've
conversation.
talked about this before, where it's like your brain is like the $5 Walmart bin of movies.
Exactly, yeah.
Where it's just like these random ass movies that you kind of like saw at home. But Shallow Hal, you like will bring up scenes from that.
Well, I don't know if I was home alone a lot as a kid. And I think I just had like a collection of VHSs and DVDs, and I owned Shallow Hal. Somehow that movie just wound up in my home.
Okay.
And so I think I just put it on once or twice as a kid, and for some reason it stuck with me.
The Farrelly Brothers movie.
It's not a good movie. To be clear, this is not a movie that I'm going to like sing the praises of. For those who don't know, it's about a very picky, surface level, shallow guy named Hal.
Played by Jack Black. And he's hypnotized to see the beauty that's inside of women. So meaning like, conventionally unattractive women, he starts seeing as really hot babes.
And so he ends up falling in love with Gwyneth Paltrow's character, who's extremely obese in reality, but he sees her as young Gwyneth Paltrow.
Is she wearing a fat suit in the movie?
She does in the latter half, yeah. Because like in the first half, you see glimpses of reality, but you don't see her face or anything, and they clearly used a body double for it.
Right.
And it's a very offensive movie. I'm sure if you haven't heard of this movie listening, you're like, what the fuck is this? It doesn't really age well. I don't even know. I don't even really want to pitch in and say this movie has its heart in the right place, because it's supposed to be about, like, it doesn't matter what you look like. It's about what's inside. But it just misses the mark on so many levels, because the humor in it is literally just like fat jokes and ugly people jokes.
Yeah.
And so
I love how I asked you what art moved you this week. And I guess it did move you in a negative way.
Because I revisited it too. That was like a thing.
Right. You did have this relationship with it that you kind of forgot about the details of the movie. You just remember watching it.
Exactly. It literally just popped up on my homepage, because again, it's free on YouTube with ads, and I was like just waiting, and I was like, fuck it, I'll check this one out. And so
I've been trying to get you to watch Challengers for so fucking long. I lent you the Blu-ray for it that you kept in your laptop bag. Didn't even take it out for like 5 months, and Shallow Hal is available, and you're like, I'll fucking put it on. I'll never forgive you for that.
That's okay. I never apologized either. I'm gonna be me.
Fair enough.
Because, well, here's the thing though. I will get to Challengers. This always happens where you recommend me movies and breathe down my neck about shows or movies for like a long time. And then one day, I don't know, I'm like, oh yeah, I checked it out. And I won't bring it up to you for like 2 weeks or something.
No, that's not true. When you do watch it, you do bring it up
That's
immediately.
true. That's true. There might be truth.
Like, I remember when you finally watched May December, you texted me that you were putting it on. So
yeah.
You do let me know.
There are certain movies, yeah. I think, well, I'm more comfortable with putting on like really disposable movies on my own than you are, I think.
Yeah, I always have this like, and maybe this is wrong, but I always have this feeling of like I have limited time after work, and I just want to like spend that time watching a movie that I've been trying to get to. I'm at a stage in my life where I don't rewatch movies as much as I used to. You know, I used to like be a big rewatcher of classics. I don't do that as much anymore.
Well, I don't think it's wrong. I think it's just different. You and I just have different relationships with how we consume movies. Sometimes I'm going to put on Shallow Hal.
That's true. Is the second thing you want me to bring up? Is the one that we share?
We both watched this one together, so
right.
You can have this one can be yours.
So we mentioned it a little bit in the RoboCop episode when we were bringing up satire in general, but Chris and I are watching the Apple TV Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg show, The Studio, which is a satire on Hollywood where Seth Rogen plays this character named Matt Remick, who just got promoted to a fake Hollywood studio called a Continental. He got promoted to the studio exec, like the head of Continental. And it's a big satire on like studio executives in Hollywood, but also like the insane process and like self-indulgent process that is making movies. I think what I like about the show is that it is both very loving towards the filmmaking process and then also making fun of it.
Yeah, it very much is like making a case for like making movies good, and kind of, you know, it's like it kind of, it makes, like you said, it makes fun of it, but it also shows that kind of the naivete when people criticize the movie industry, when they're like, why can't they just do this? And then they show a little bit of the red tape that comes with these ambitious ideas and, like you said, these self-indulgent ideas.
Seth Rogen's talked about this show, and you can see it in the first few episodes, how during his process of making movies for the past 10 years, Seth Rogen said this, he learned that studio execs are not people that like hate movies. Mm-hmm. They want to make good movies. They're just really afraid of getting fired. They want everyone to like them. They are actually very insecure people that just want people to like them all the time. He said that, like, I've been on sets where studio execs just want to talk to movie stars and they want the movie stars to really like them.
Yeah.
And it brings a new insight into that aspect. If you're like Chris and I, and you're a really big fan of like just satire in general, but specifically you kind of are as much as I am obsessed with the inner workings of Hollywood, you'd really enjoy this. But I also do think it works outside of that as just a comedy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. It is really funny. And it has this kind of, you know, this very Birdman-like urgency behind it, which I don't know if that's going to put people off saying that, but I do think it works in this movie.
The episodes, a lot of the episodes are huge oneers.
Yeah.
And the music is actually composed by the same guy who did Birdman. But it is a better movie than Birdman. But anyways, I highly recommend it. Well, okay. Let's get to the movie, man. How did Spider-Man change you?
Well, oh boy, where do I start with this one? You know, this movie was integral to me on a fundamental, like deep into my soul. I've heard of Spider-Man before the movie came out. You know, I had a video game that came out in like 2000, I believe 1999 or 2000. I think a lot of people know it. It's just called Spider-Man. It's a comic book version of it. It's generally considered to be one of the best Spider-Man video games of all time.
Yeah.
I haven't played in a long fucking time, but I played this game over and over again. Literally, like, because to the point where I think I didn't have like memory on my computer or something, and I would just start it from the beginning and beat it in the same day. Like, that was just my routine. I would just beat it in one sitting.
Right.
And so the point is, Spider-Man as a character is always near and dear to me. And one day as a kid, I saw a TV spot and I saw Spider-Man swinging and jumping on a bridge, and little 6-year-old Chris like, they're doing a Spider-Man movie?
Oh,
like,
really? So you remember that moment?
yeah, I remember seeing like a live action Spider-Man and telling my mom, like, they're doing a Spider-Man movie. You know?
Oh, man.
And so I remember the song that played in the commercials for it. I don't know what it's called, but it was also in the video game Motor Storm.
Was it the commercial where like Spider-Man, like it's between the two towers that they ended up scrapping just because of 9/11?
No, I think that was like a theatrical trailer.
Got it.
I think, you know, I saw like a little TV trailer. I don't think I saw a trailer for it in theaters. So I was obsessed with this movie. I had a Spider-Man themed birthday party. I talked about that a little bit in the Into the Spider-Verse podcast, but I have pictures now because I don't think I found pictures last time, but I'll pop them up.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, when I turned 7, I had a Spider-Man themed birthday party. And
I'm glad we're going to have photos.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And my grandpa wore like a green polo shirt with like a green mask. He was supposed to be like a green goblin. We all sprayed like silly string to be like we were webbing him up. You know,
that's really great.
Like, yeah, it was awesome. You know,
we've talked about your grandpa and how much of a classic grandpa he
like
is.
The goofy stories I got under my belt.
Just like the most wholesome stories that you have with him. No, that's exciting.
So I can keep going, but I think you listeners get the gist of it.
And we'll talk,
you know?
obviously, we're going to talk a lot about our relationship with it. But like, yeah man, so I didn't watch this movie in theaters. I watched 2 and 3 in theaters.
Okay.
The first Spider-Man movie I saw at home.
Did you rent it?
I don't remember how I watched it. Like, I remember just watching it. It's one of those movies where I was so young where it was always like, it was just on one night. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't remember the specific moment, my first time watching and my reaction, but I was very little. I didn't see it in theaters. I saw the 2 and 3 in theaters, but I mean, this movie is so important to me. I was thinking about it. This is the first superhero movie I ever watched.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, because I didn't grow up with the Burton Batman movies.
Yeah.
You know?
Or the Schumacher Batman movies.
Exactly. I didn't grow up with Batman at all. I think the first Batman movie I had ever watched was Nolan Batman. Okay. And
what about X-Men? Did you, because I know we've talked about X-Men 1-on-1, but was that movie in your radar? Did you hear about it at all as a kid or anything?
No.
Okay.
Like, because again, the only comic books I ever like read were like some Spider-Man comics that were just hand-me-downs. Mm-hmm. But like, aside from that, like I grew up more as a Harry Potter kid than I did as a superhero kid.
Gotcha.
Like, I was more like, that was my big nerddom. I think we talked about that in Galaxy Quest a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't a big nerd about things in terms of like, I didn't have those, but Harry Potter was my thing. Anyways, I digress. The first Spider-Man movie I fucking loved, and I've always loved. And as a kid, I thought that was my favorite one. Like, I like 2, but I also had this like weird thing about 2 where I'm like, it's boring and it sucks that he loses his powers. Like, as a kid, I hated that.
I mean, you're not the only person that feels that way. There are people that see Spider-Man 2 as more of a functioning drama than they do as a superhero movie.
I think that's bullshit now, but like, I think 2 is amazing and 2 is the best one. So like, I'm saying as a kid.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you too. 2 is my favorite out of the bunch too.
Yeah,
you know, it's not the most original take, but
exactly. But as a kid, I was just like, this is like the wish fulfillment movie that you want. I'm just like, when I was a kid, I had this like thing that I'm sure a lot of kids deal with, which is I never was really satisfied with myself. You know what I mean? I always thought I could be more popular than I was. I didn't like the way I looked at all. And I just had very low self-esteem.
Did you feel that way like when it came out, like when you were like 5?
I don't know.
Or was it something that kind of molded as
it kind of molded as I grew, but it was at a very young age. It was like when I was in like very young in elementary school, mm-hmm. I remember. And I remember Spider-Man was a big thing for me just because like it always was that wish fulfillment thing. It's like, I want to get bit by a spider.
Yeah.
I want to get bit by a spider so I can be what I said in my synopsis, extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
But what's magical about this movie for me, and I think for you as well, is that as you grow older, you look at this movie differently, less as wish fulfillment and more as like a connection of, I know what it's like to try your best and still come short, you know? And obviously 2 dives even deeper into that, but that's what I love about Spider-Man. And
the character of Peter Parker in general,
and the character of Peter Parker in general is that like he's always trying and he'll come short all the time, but he never stops trying.
He never stops trying for other people too. That's what makes him so special, is that he's such a kind character. And this edition of Peter Parker in particular, in my opinion at least, that this is the most kind Peter Parker.
And selfless.
Yeah, exactly. That he's someone that genuinely encourages people to be their best selves, doesn't judge people, and he does something because, obviously with great power comes great responsibility, and you see that arc of him actually learning and experiencing that and understanding that, and so, yeah, I agree. I had a special thing too. Like, do you know about those? Oh, what were they called? As a kid, did you ever see commercials for those Spider-Man like web shooters where you get like a little glove and it had like a can of silly string attached to your wrist?
Yeah,
and
of course.
It had a trigger you could web up. Did you have one of those as a kid?
No.
I wanted one for Christmas so fucking bad. And I got it, which is a cool thing. But 6-year-old me thought they would like work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I thought it was going to be
course.
like real webbing. And in my head, I was mentally preparing like, oh, I'm going to go stop bad guys.
Yeah, you could do it. Like, I'll do that. I'll be Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I can find suction cups for my fingers or something so I can climb walls if I need to. But like, I will swing across buildings with this.
Yeah, it's just, there's something so evergreen about that character.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to specifics about this movie, but I think it's important to talk about Spider-Man as a broad idea of Stan Lee coming up with this idea of like, what if it was a teenager that was like any other teenager going through teenage problems, but he got bit by a spider and suddenly was burdened with the responsibility. And how would he balance that? Like, it's just an amazing idea. And it's just like, I'll show up for every Spider-Man movie. I will, and I think, but that's because of this movie.
Yeah.
This movie like kind of just cemented it in my kid brain, and maybe I didn't know it then, but I'm like, this is gonna be what I look for in every movie.
Yeah.
When it comes to the craft, and 5-year-old me didn't know that, but it kind of cemented something, and this is what I look for in every movie. I talk to you so often, even off mic, how much I crave like genuine sincerity in movies.
Yeah.
How much I crave fun and like the filmmaker having fun and a personality, something that you've been bringing up a lot of, just like you can tell that the people behind it cared.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm craving that. And a lot of it is this, my love for movies is from this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think the feelings it give you never go away, the feelings it gives you never go away. I think like, you and I have gone to a screening of this movie together.
So I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Last year, on April.
Really? That was a year ago?
I checked my letterbox.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was like April 13th, I think, where we went to go see Spider-Man at the AMC. And on my letterbox review, all I put was like, sometimes you just got to go see Spider-Man with your best friend. And it was my first time seeing that movie in a theater last year.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. And at this point now, like if you go to a theater, like the audience claps at seemingly the strangest times too. But if you spend any second online, you'll understand how many memes are just riddled in this entire movie.
So yeah, because it's taken all this whole life on the internet, every line gets an applause break. But outside of that, it's like the things I noticed in the theater. It's such a beautiful movie. It's such a beautiful looking movie.
Was it on film when we watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, because I remember we saw Spider-Man 2 at the New Beverly.
Which was definitely on film, on like 35 millimeter.
I remember that. Yeah, I couldn't remember if Spider-Man 1. So Spider-Man 1 was on film too?
Yeah,
That's pretty sick.
Yeah. You could tell too.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful seeing it in theaters. It was also wonderful being a part of a group of people that you could see were all our age.
The energy was just beautiful.
It was people like it was specifically people in their 20s that had all had the same relationship that you and me have. So like late 20s, but yeah, I mean, we'll get into specifics, but I mean, this movie just will always mean so much to me.
Yeah.
It rules so hard.
Praise be to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movie. All right, well, that ends our episode.
Yeah, I know.
That about wraps her on up.
So your first introduction was the comics?
No, the video game, I think.
Oh, yeah, you said the video game.
And I saw the cartoon.
And you're not talking about like the video game that came after the movie, which is
No, not the movie video game. I'm talking about the one that came out in like 2000, like that comic book style video game.
I know the one you're talking about. I never played that one.
It's a great game.
I played the movie video game, which is also a classic.
If I was to say, I definitely played the hell out of that game. But I played it after the movie came out.
The one where Bruce Campbell is, what is he doing?
Tutorial narrator, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a classic. But yeah, so my first introduction was through that video game, and also I watched the cartoon.
Okay.
That came out.
I watched the cartoon here and there.
Yeah.
But this was my first introduction to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then I read the comics, and then I became obsessed.
I've only read the comics here and there. I haven't read a lot of the Spider-Man comics, funny enough.
Spider-Man comics are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
They're so much fun. And well, that's another thing about this movie specifically is that, like, even though it doesn't do all the things that are in the comics, obviously the web shooter thing is a big thing, right? Mm-hmm. But it like all the characters are designed to look at as if they are ripped straight from the comics. Like Flash Thompson looks like he's a comic book person. Yeah. The way he has that spiky black hair and the leather jacket. And they tone it down, rightly so. But Kirsten Dunst has like just the reddest hair you've ever seen.
Yeah. I was going to say her hair is like really red in the first one.
And not all of it ages well, but there's something really impressive about it. I really like the fact that they got the aesthetic while also changing things.
Well, it commits to the tone and the world that it's building, but it also commits to the heart behind it, which is what I think works, is that it also does understand the undertone of what it is to be Spider-Man through, in my opinion, the biggest part is the Uncle Ben and Aunt May.
Okay, so let's start there.
They're kind of the beating heart of the whole trilogy, in my opinion.
I love Uncle Ben and Aunt May in this movie. Uncle Ben played by Cliff Robertson, mm-hmm. and then Aunt May played by Rosemary Harris.
Which she's still with us, by the way.
Is she really?
Yeah.
How old is she?
I think she's like 90 or something.
Oh, was she one of those people that looked older than she really was in like the first Spider-Man movie?
I'm not sure.
Are you sure she's with us? Or?
I looked it up, yeah.
Okay, 90.
You want to get to the bottom of this real quick?
Yeah, 97.
97. I thought she was like barely 90.
At the Tonys last year, she received a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Good for her.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm glad. Good to know that she's still with us. But anyways, within the first few minutes you're introduced with them, it's like Uncle Ben's changing the light, mm-hmm. and Aunt May's cooking. And Uncle Ben's stressed out about a job, and Aunt May immediately comforts him by being like, I love you, Peter loves you.
We've been down and out before.
We'll figure it out. And it's just like Uncle Ben, the way he, like, his clothes look, Aunt May, the way her clothes look, that kitchen immediately feels lived in. It feels like real people. It feels like your aunt and uncle's house too, which I love. You know what I mean? Like the wall print.
Yeah.
Like there's so much about it that just feels alive in just 3 minutes.
It feels like an old couple's house, you know?
Yeah, man.
Well, I mean, I'm sure many people have joked about this, so I won't get into it, but it is funny how fucking old they are.
I know.
It's supposed to be his uncle and aunt, and they're like straight up like grandparents, borderline great grandparents.
But I think it works because, like, I think for Sam Raimi, it was probably important to just like immediately get this feeling of like this cozy mm-hmm. home vibe that they've established for Peter. And you can't get that with like, personally, there's a reason why it doesn't really work with Marissa Tomei.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that they never mention Peter's parents, you know, at all. He just lives with his aunt and uncle, and the audience is just rolling with it. I like that it trusts the audience with just, you know, like you probably know what happened to them and doesn't need to be a whole thing.
Well, there's that moment with Willem Dafoe. He's just like, your parents must be really proud. He's just like, I live with my aunt and uncle, and they are proud.
Yeah.
I like that he's really trying with Peter. The fact that he's like, no, I need to talk to him. Like he's a teenager, he's going through stuff, but I need to have this conversation with him. And then he finds the loophole of just like, oh, I'll drive you. And then he like looks at Aunt May and does this sign, you know what I mean? The okay sign. And it's a great moment, but it also like, I love that the movie gives time for that. Mm-hmm. It gives time for like Uncle Ben to be like, how do I talk to him? How do I get through it to him? You kind of feel like the movie gives time for us to feel like he's been ruminating on that. So when we get to the car scene, you feel the weight of Uncle Ben kind of rehearsing this speech to Peter. You know what I mean? But then when Peter throws it off the way he does, it's even more heartbreaking because the movie gave Uncle Ben that time.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I think a lot of young boys growing up, at least in stable households with loving fathers, have had situations like this where you're set in your own bullshit because you're young and don't really have a bigger understanding of the world yet. You know, I just want to go and hang out with my friends. I just want to go and do this thing, and I'm nervous about school. And then when your dad kind of sits and has a real conversation with you about something and sees like, hey, you might be kind of straying off course.
Right.
I think a lot of us have had that kind of uncomfortable where you get defensive and nasty for a second.
100%. Like, we've all had that parental figure, even if it's not the dad. We have had a parental figure be like, hey, listen, I've been where you've been at.
Yeah.
And then your immediate response is what Peter says, which is like, no, you haven't. And even though for Peter, he
literally,
but still the metaphor is there.
Exactly. This movie is very much just a coming of age movie, you know, which wraps up very nicely towards the end, which we'll get to. But
again, this movie never gets off theme.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I think a lot of these characters deal with their relationships with their fathers in different ways. At least the core friend group. You know, Mary Jane has a piece of shit dad who verbally abuses her, and then Harry has an emotionally neglectful dad who's rich as hell and gave him everything he ever wants except love, basically.
Yeah.
And so then Peter has a very loving, you know, father figure, but he just can't see that and appreciate it until it was too late.
And the car scene is important because I think we should talk about it now.
Yeah.
The car scene's important because I love what Uncle Ben says before the great power comes great responsibility line, which is like, this is the time where you kind of figure out who you are, and you just want to make sure, you're aware of what you're turning into. I'm butchering the line.
You want me to say it?
Yeah, go for it.
These are the years when a man changes into the man who's going to become for the rest of his life. Just be careful who you change into. And then, but anyway.
Look at you. Hell yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. The exact words.
I might have misquoted something, but anyway, though.
I love that line because it's like, not only is it true, but it's like, it's a great metaphor for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. Because at this point, Peter has his powers and he's been practicing his webs. You know, he was strung up his entire room and he caught the Dr. Pepper can, and he obviously got into the whole fight with Flash. And I think it's like right before he's about to go to that wrestling fight to impress Mary Jane. So he's doing his powers for all selfish reasons is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And even if Uncle Ben doesn't know that he has spider powers, he knows he's being selfish. You know what I mean? He's being careless and he's being selfish. So he tries to have that conversation when he says, you know, Flash probably deserved what happens, but just because you can do it doesn't give you the right to. And that's an important lesson a lot of us learn, you know, growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, great power comes great responsibility is just like a Yoda ass line. You could like take it into your own lives, you know, just the way Yoda would say things to Luke where you're like, those are important life lessons. I'm just going to remember those. Is the same thing with this movie too. Okay. So before we get off Uncle Ben, I just want to say, the line where he tells Peter is like, he's going to need help with painting the kitchen. Don't forget Michelangelo. Yeah. He calls him Michelangelo. I don't know why, because we've talked about this. When you watch movies really young, there's this like sense memory thing that happens where you remember a specific detail about that movie for some reason.
Yeah.
The sticky note of him writing meatloafs in the oven, Michelangelo, for some reason, as a kid, that has stuck out to me.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I think it's the first I remember. This is going to sound goofy, but it might be true for some people. I remember in school learning about Michelangelo and then putting it together and understanding that reference.
I had the inverse where I asked why is he calling Michelangelo? And I think one of my family members was like, oh, he's a painter. So I think he's just...
I don't think you had the inverse. You just like asked the question quicker.
Well, I'm just saying I learned about Michelangelo through Spider-Man. Like I learned who Michelangelo was because, you know.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I remember in school when I learned about him, I put two and two together and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And this is when the internet wasn't a thing. So you couldn't just like Google Michelangelo.
I mean, you probably could. We just didn't have access to it at the time.
Exactly. When smartphones weren't a thing, I should say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Immediate information.
Yeah, like iPads or whatever. Exactly.
Our parents weren't letting us on Google.
Yeah, did you guys know that there was these things called landlines? No. fucking every like
Dial up, dude.
late millennial dude. He's just like, you guys don't know about dial-up. Just fucking.
Don't use the phone.
This is why Gen Z hates us, because we're so fucking annoying about that shit.
I mean, they're going to be annoying to Gen
they
Alpha.
are. They need to get their act together and understand.
I'm not going to be that harsh about it. We all. I'm just saying it's an endless cycle, man. It's okay. Find your peace. They need to get their act together. They're kids, man.
I don't know, man.
Anyway,
Altaf loses it on the pod. Okay, so is there anything else? Because we'll probably talk about Aunt May. Is there anything else you want to touch on
with the car scene? Yeah, I want to touch on Peter's response when he snaps at him.
Oh shit, yeah.
And he says, like, obviously, like, it stopped lecturing me. Then Uncle Ben says, like, I don't mean to lecture and I don't mean to preach, and I know I'm not your father. Then Peter,
stop trying to be.
Yeah, then stop pretending to be. He interrupts him and says that, and the look that Uncle Ben gives him, that long pause, makes me feel more than like any other Spider-Man movie has ever made me feel.
Why is that?
It's because it's so real, and I think a lot of us, like, have felt that sort of thing when you're young and stupid. When someone tells you something wise, and then you completely throw it out the window, and you look back on it, and you're like, man, that was stupid of me to react that way. And I think, and especially someone who's genuinely telling you this from like a place of love. And he basically, not only does he just reject what he's saying, but he also rejects his role in his life. You know what I'm saying? He's saying, like, stop pretending to be my father. Basically he's like, you're not. He just says, like, I reject that part of, you. Totally.
And I think what's important is that, like, he doesn't get a second chance to say sorry. He doesn't get a second chance to do things right. Like, he said something that he'll just have to sit with and regret. And Spider-Man 2 builds upon that, where he finally tells Aunt May. But that is a decision that the filmmakers and the writers made, which is, I know from the comics, but everything, but to still, like, have that be a thing of, like, and that same night Uncle Ben died. And when he's on the ground and he's dying, it's so, like, it's so rough to watch Cliff Robertson perform that. I'm saying that as a compliment, where he just says Peter as he's crying and he can't say any words.
Yeah.
And I know the meme of Tobey Maguire crying has become, like, really
I know
viral.
It's been butchered.
But, like, if you
if
you really take yourself out of the meme and just watch that scene, it's so powerful because, like, Uncle Ben can't say anything besides Peter, and Peter knows that he will never be able to take back his words.
Yeah, and he held his hand.
But that's like a growing moment where, like, Peter now has grown up.
It's Peter growing up on top of learning, shortly after that Uncle Ben's death is indirectly caused by him and his own selfishness. Not only did he shit on Uncle Ben, also his selfish decision of letting the robber go, in the infamous line, I missed the part where that's my problem.
Being him wanting to be snarky. Yeah.
Yeah, him, wanting revenge and just being like, yeah, fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. And so he ends up learning that, like, there are bigger things than just him and his own ego and what he, gets out of other people.
Yeah.
And so, it's a very well executed moment, to really understand Peter's growth and what formulates him becoming Spider-Man.
You're right. I just never have felt so emotionally connected with a story as much as I have with this, like, that sequence with Uncle Ben and Peter in the car, especially I'm talking about superhero movies, right? It's just that there's a part of me that just feels like all superhero movies are trying to, like, achieve what that scene achieves when it comes to trying to connect with the character emotionally.
Yeah.
And very few superhero movies have actually met that,
Yeah.
Batman Begins, I feel like, gets there at certain points.
Oh yeah.
That's
Batman
why
Begins is great.
That's why I love Batman Begins so much, because I've told you this, like, my recent rewatch with the commentaries that we did on Patreon, I felt like I liked Batman Begins more than The Dark Knight because I felt way more emotionally connected. But yeah, okay, so let's scoot back a little bit. I forget how quickly Peter gets his powers.
Yeah, he gets them in, like, barely 10 minutes in, if that.
How do you feel about origin stories?
I don't care. Like, I'm only saying that because I know a lot of people are tired of origin stories. And I'm like, just tell a good story. That's all I fucking care about. You know what I'm saying? The thing that works about this one isn't just because it's an origin story of him getting the powers, but what it emotionally means. And like what we just talked about with Uncle Ben and all that stuff, like, there's an emotional point of him getting his powers. And it's a metaphor for when we all grow into our own and find our own confidence, what we're meant to do in this world and what we do with that, our talents or our abilities or intellects, whatever it is, And so I'm like, I don't care. I don't really have a take. What about you?
No, very well put. I love origin stories.
Okay, cool.
Like
cool.
I've always loved them.
Because I remember, go ahead.
Just to finish my point, like my favorite Ant-Man movie is the first Ant-Man. My favorite Iron Man movie is the first Iron Man. My first Batman movie is the first Batman. Like I just have
favorite Captain America, the second and third, but still.
First Avenger I watched recently. It fucking rules.
Yeah,
it's actually really good. It's not my favorite, but yeah. But my point is like when it comes to these type of stories, like I really always love the origin stories because it has that wish fulfillment aspect to it. So I just I think like 2 definitely has overshadowed this movie. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say,
which is a compliment because 2 is really fucking good,
But I just wanted to bring that point up. It's a small point. But
no, I get it though, because like I think just maybe we're just speaking for ourselves, but our own circle of, sometimes our own friend group, or sometimes when I hear people were complimenting the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, they're like, oh, I love that they skipped the origin story. I'm so fucking tired of the origin story, or people who shit on.
You mean like the most important part of what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, if you're going to remove that part, then you got to fill it in with something else. And I don't want to open the can of worms of criticizing the other movies, but you get what I'm saying. That totally. Just because it's an origin story doesn't make it weaker. It just has to be a good story.
So Spider-Man gets bit. There's so many scenes I want to talk about. I want to talk about the scene where he takes a picture of MJ.
Yeah, or even the opening narration of him being, just running after the bus.
If you thought this was some story about what's the line?
Oh yeah, he says, wait, who am I? Sure, you want to know the story of my life isn't the faint of heart. If somebody told you that this is a story about your average ordinary guy not to care in the world, somebody lied. Like any story worth telling, is all about a girl. That girl, Mary Jane Watson, the woman I love since before I even liked girls. I wish I can tell you that was me next to her. Heck, I'd even take him. But hey, stop the bus, please. That's me,
Look at you. Hell yeah. Like
something like that.
At first I was like, oh man, I was wishing you would get it. And then you close your eyes and went into this flow state.
I literally just walked myself through the image of the web that it fades in on and the pan.
You saw the Matrix. You were just like, I see it. Okay, but I love I love that he wakes up because he comes home and he's just out of it, right?
After he gets bit, yeah.
Yeah. I love how he wakes up, sees his 6-pack, and he's like, all right.
Oh yeah. It's like, are you feeling better? Or how are you feeling? He's like, I'm fine.
But I like how he just doesn't question it that much.
He wakes up ripped.
And he's just like, I guess today's a good day. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it's like.
Well, also,
but I also love I gotta say, the run down the stairs, but then he does that little trick.
Oh yeah, the little run. Oh, I had a Spider-Man themed calendar as a kid. Did I tell you that?
From the Spider-Man
based around the first Spider-Man movie.
Oh, really?
I think it was for 2003 maybe.
I want that now.
I know.
Wait, was each month a different image from the
Spider-Man? It was
Spider-Man?
a different picture screenshot from the movie.
Oh, I want that so bad.
And so one of them was him mid running over the stairs. And so I always associated that as a kid.
What month was it? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember what month it was. I wish. But yeah, well, have you heard the jokes that when Aunt May says are you feeling any better? Any changes? And he's like, change? And he looks down. Yep, big change.
Oh yeah.
You've heard the joke theories that he looks at his wiener.
No, he's obviously gesturing towards his 6-pack, but I love the joke theories that he's looking at.
He opens his pants and he's like, well, big change.
You know what moment I really want to get to when it comes to this, the whole him discovering his powers is the part where he's jumping from building to building.
Yeah.
And then the moment where he's trying to figure out how to shoot the webs. It's we've gotten so many superhero movies since then. Why did we stop doing origin stories where you get to see this part? This is for me, this is the most fun part of a superhero movie. Him discovering he has powers, getting excited and figuring out. That's why I asked you about what do you feel about origin stories. My favorite part about Ant-Man, the reason I keep bringing it up, is that remember when he first time has to break out of a prison and the ant helps him break out that's being operated by Michael Douglas, and when they break out he accidentally seeps through and is inside a club and then is spinning on I remember that shit because it's fun. You know what I don't care about? This movie's about Doctor Strange coming through a portal and I'm like, what the fuck is that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My favorite part about Amazing Spider-Man is when he's realizing that he can he has Spider-Man shit. I remember that handstand that he does on top of the building. Mm-hmm. That shit's cool.
Yeah. I think you know, you can still do it in different interesting ways, you know, because I think I understand the basic correction of like, you don't want people to just be able to predict the movie as it goes. There's a villain and, you know, but like Batman Begins is a completely fucking different movie than Spider-Man. Deadpool is a completely different fucking movie than Batman Begins and Spider-Man. You know, you can do origin stories originally and have them be interesting, like any other fucking hero's journey. You know what I'm saying? Harry Potter is an origin story, you know, Philosopher's Stone. You know, completely different movie than any of those, you know?
All right. So I'm going to transition into something from this point, and this transition is going to be great.
Okay.
Because I'm going to talk about a transition. Spider-Man does his like realize that he can maybe attach himself to the billboard across the street.
Yeah.
He does that, slams against the billboard, falls down, and then it hard cuts to him running back home.
Well, they do that a couple times, even earlier when he's like, do you remember when he's like running to school or whatever too?
What
There's a shot
of
of him. I'm just saying, like, I just love those little wide shots of him just running.
But I'm talking about like the hard edit of like him falling down, but right before you see him, like right when he falls off frame, it cuts to him running.
Just running inside.
I remember seeing it in theaters and how hard we all laughed. You know what I mean? It like stood out to me. But the reason I'm bringing that cut up is like, let's talk about Sam Raimi.
Okay, yeah.
So this was obviously
He's our boy.
This was obviously the first Raimi movie I watched. There might be an older generation that watched the Evil Dead movies and were just like, the Evil Dead guy's doing Spider-Man, you know? I mean, there 100% is people who are listening to that have had that experience.
Yeah.
But I mean, I took for granted as a kid how unique this movie looked and was edited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How like wild its stylistic choices was. I just thought this is how, because I was so young, I was like, this is what superhero movies should look like.
Well, yeah, and there weren't a lot to compare it to at the time.
Right.
You know, I mean, except Batman, you know, Tim Burton's Batman, and Tim Burton had his own aesthetic and style of directing movies. But yeah, I think like Sam Raimi, what makes him so special, and there's a, you know, you and I can talk about Sam Raimi forever. We fucking love the guy. I think he's a very intentional filmmaker, as in like every shot like has like a purpose. I felt that way watching Lord of the Rings too, of how many shots are like handheld pushing in on dramatic moments or doing these, you know, big swings in the style.
But a big swing in a style can sometimes come off like very showy.
Yeah. I'm not saying everything has to be a big swing. I'm just saying that it feels intentional, and it's like consistently the directing feels like it's in line with the emotional tone of the movie. Like it's consistent with what you want to be feeling.
Oh, totally. I 100% agree. Like, we'll talk about it, but the funniest scene in the entire movie is that Thanksgiving scene. Like, there's things about it where I'm just like, no one could direct and edit that scene the way Sam Raimi does. But I love Sam Raimi so much. He's probably in my top 5 favorite filmmakers. I just want to share a quick story. Chris, you and I went to go see Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness together.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was excited, the fact that Sam Raimi was doing it. You and I were especially excited. Now, there's a lot of people in the audience probably didn't even care about Sam Raimi. They're probably like, there's a new Doctor Strange movie. I'm excited to see it, right? I remember a specific moment that I felt like you and I were like connected, where it was there's obviously a big sequence, a horror sequence in Multiverse of Madness that is directly like, oh, Sam Raimi's doing Evil Dead again. But there was a specific there's a specific scene early on in the movie where it's a wedding scene. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it goes from Doctor Strange to the audience, and it does this like crazy like whip pan to Rachel McAdams. And I don't know if you even call it a whip pan, but it was a specific type of movement. And you and I kind of giggled. And I just remember, I'm like, oh, because you and I are both like, that's a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah. We both felt it. We were like,
it was so dorky, but I just loved it.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm sure people listening who have seen our reactions know we love that shit when people have like, you know, when there are like transitions or certain types of shots we think are like funny choices, or not always funny, but cool choices or interesting choices. We're just good at noticing that stuff.
Yeah, I don't want to like jerk ourselves off and be like, we're super good at noticing it, but I just like, we appreciate it.
Maybe not good at it, but we enjoy noticing that stuff.
Exactly.
That's really what I'm trying to get at. Is like we liked using our, you know, eyeballs for that stuff.
No, I also, there's a moment in there, that movie, because I want to like specifically Sam Raimi, right? In Multiverse of Madness, I remember when like the big like monsters attacking New York, and when he sees the monster, he puts his martini glass up, just jumps off, and then the cape catches him. And then it immediately cuts to a New Yorker being like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I just like wanted to cry because it felt like after so many years of Marvel just not including civilians in their movies, it just felt like, oh my God, we're back in Sam Raimi's New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Sam Raimi's New York was what New York was to me.
Yeah.
I was born in New York, but I like left really early. Like I was kind of a baby when I moved out.
Yeah.
So Sam Raimi's New York was my vision of
Were
New
you
York.
like a little baby New Yorker when you moved?
I wore a little tracksuit.
You were hailing a cab when you were leaving. You're like, I'm out of here.
Hey, what the fuck? I called this earlier. I'm just turning it
You have like a little thin slice of pizza waving your cab.
Yeah, nothing less than Joe's. Listen, I like a dollar slice too. Don't get me wrong. I'm a man of the people. Oh, it's baby New Yorker.
It's not even, we're not even putting babyisms. Like if you think it'd be like, a little like,
Hey,
Gerber.
fucking asshole.
You're like a Gerber style pizza. So it's just straight up an adult New Yorker, just in a little baby's body.
I like that though.
Yeah. Anyway, baby Altaf, New Yorker.
Do you want to talk about Green Goblin?
No, not. I don't. He's like my least favorite part of this movie.
You're right.
I'm just kidding.
So you want to talk
listeners.
about MJ? No, I'm just kidding. We can talk about MJ later. But I remember this is going to be a weird pull, but I remember when you were talking about International Man of Mystery, Austin Powers International Man of Mystery, you talked a lot about how like Austin Powers' storyline and Dr. Evil's storyline like match each other.
Yeah.
And Dr. Evil's storyline is just as interesting, but every time like Austin Powers goes through like an emotional beat, Dr. Evil is through. I know it's a silly movie to bring up, but Spider-Man's doing the same thing. Like as Peter is transforming, Green Goblin is transforming. They're going through similar arcs of like what they're doing with their powers, except Green Goblin is the example of like what happens when you don't have Uncle Ben giving you that speech.
Yeah. And he's also like, both of them are also down on their luck in different ways. Like it sets it up where you do kind of feel bad for Willem Dafoe because he's like under threat of his funding being pulled. And, he has like a lot of pressure that he's under and all this stuff. And it's his company that he built and all that,
Well, okay. So let's talk about Willem Dafoe. I mean, come on.
What is there to say,
come
man?
on. It's like every time I watch it, I'm like, is there any better like supervillain performance than this?
And he still got it, man. When he came back in No Way Home, it was fucking nuts how good he still was. It was like he never left.
Unbelievable how good he is in No Way Home.
Yeah.
The whistle, I talk about the whistle a lot. I love
just
the
the
whistle.
faces he made as soon as he when he made that turn from Norman to Green. Anyway,
Wait, can I say it?
yeah, of course.
Norman's on sabbatical, honey. I remember pretty much it when they did their commentary track for No Way Home. Eric was like telling me, he's like, man, that just feels straight out of like a early 2000s movie. That's fucking awesome. Like that line felt like it was a Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah.
And like Eric like freaked out when he said honey. He's like, he said honey? Okay, so I'm something of a scientist myself. Where do we start?
Yeah, I know. I'm something of a scientist.
What about his performance do you think stands the test of time?
He has a very Willem Dafoe has this with everything he's in, a very distinct energy and a feeling that you get when you watch his movies.
Well, to that point, I think what I want to ask maybe more specifically is that this performance is very big. Mm-hmm. Like even when he's just Norman Osborn and he hasn't taken the Green Goblin juice or whatever you want to call it.
He has like perfect range though, I think is what it is.
He has perfect range, but he's really big. Why do you think his bigness in the movie, this like a hammy performance in a way, and I say that in a complimentary way, why do you feel still emotionally connected to it?
Well, kind of what I just said is I think it does show the range. When you first meet him, he's dropping off Harry. And
he's a distant dad.
Yeah, and Harry doesn't want to be dropped off, in the Rolls Royce right in the front, which I mean, power to him that he's like, dude, these are public school kids. And they obviously set up that he's been flunked out of all the other schools. But he's really mellow at first. He's intimidating, but he's mellow where he's like, don't be ashamed of who you are. He's kind of just cold to his son. Mm-hmm. And so I think seeing that kind of gradual buildup where you kind of understand where Willem Dafoe is coming from, or like I said earlier, that he's under pressure to, make the human trials work in time and not go back to formula.
Even like when that guy poor guy. When that guy says, I think we're going to have to go back to formula.
Yeah.
And Willem Dafoe just quickly turns around while they're not looking. And he's like, back to formula.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's not like over the top all the time. You know what I mean? He can still be perfectly threatening and intimidating without needing to be like all wide-eyed and evil laughing and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's the polar opposite of Spider-Man. And they even bring that to, a head when he literally puts Spider-Man to sleep and offers to join him and they can go and be evil together.
That scene is weird.
It's a little goofy. That's the one scene in the movie that doesn't age quite well. We were kind of like,
it's also him
join the dark side.
It's also him leaning against the wall. Like, it's really weird.
Pats his head.
It's like weirdly blocked, I think, too.
Yeah.
But
with that being said, though, there is still that feeling of like, when you have tremendous power and newfound abilities, what do you do with them? That's kind of what the overall, question that the movie asks.
And struggling with the duality of identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like Green Goblin
is literally that.
Right? Like Norman is fighting Green Goblin and Peter is kind of like fighting Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 goes more into that, but Peter's also trying to deal with this, like, the new thing that he has of, like, at the end of the movie, learning that, like, him being Spider-Man and people figuring out who he is causes danger to his close ones with Aunt May and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can I say something, though? As a kid, the scene where he's in the lab being like, you know what, fuck it, put it in me, let's do this. I don't give a shit about the board or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his heart rate goes insane
and his muscles start growing exponentially.
But that one shot freaked me out as a kid, where it's like super like misty, you can't see anything, and then suddenly reveals him just tweaking out.
Oh, when he's like having his like seizure, starts spazzing out.
It scared the shit out of me as a kid.
I mean, that there are some scary scenes for kids,
And another moment that scared the shit out of me as a kid is when again, poor guy, goes in and thinks Norman is dead and is trying to like get Norman back to consciousness and turns around and sees the heart rate go back up, turns back around and Willem Dafoe is like is about to pop 9 veins in his head.
And like crash zooms on his eyes being bugging wide open.
But when he turns around, he's like fucking furious. Yeah. Again, that moment scared the shit out of me as a kid.
He strangles him and he's like, back to formula, and throws him out.
Can I say another thing I want to say?
What?
We need villains to scare kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like that's not happening now.
And not only is he just scary as a whole, they like put jump scares and shit. Like obviously when he was like, passing the floor and his son's like, what are you doing? He's like, last night I was, and that famous like hard cut to him.
Yeah.
And then later there's like a whole ass other part where Green Goblin just jump scares the camera. Remember when he just leans in, he's like, ah!
Yeah, I know. That's like a move that I'm just like, that's kind of weird. But
I'm also like, yeah, fuck it. Green Goblin's scary.
I think that was Sam Raimi. Like, I think we need another scare.
Yeah. Well, and Green Goblin's like tech is so iconic as well. Like his outfit and his purple glider and his little orange bombs that he throws around.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason when the No Way Home trailer came out and you just saw that ball, you were like, oh!
I know. And obviously, like the other famous part is when his the pumpkin bombs turn into little knives or propellers to fly out, and that kind of slow-mo him jumping and dodging them. It's so cool.
My god, remember when Green Goblin like literally dresses up as an old grandma?
Oh yeah,
it's so cool.
He puts on the looks.
He totally gets him.
I know. Like he outwitted Spider-Man's Spidey sense basically.
It's kind
You're pathetically predictable.
Yeah, I remember I was listening to Blank Check and they were talking about Spider-Man with their Sam Raimi series. He was like, the one thing that you have to get past is that, yes, Norman gets the serum. He becomes Green Goblin. Yes, he has the tech for the glider. And sure, he puts on a goblin mask.
Yeah, we never know where that part came from.
Yeah, but it's just fun. It's like, that's why I like in No Way Home they give him the hood.
Yeah,
which makes
sense. He
sense.
looks like proper, old school Green Goblin.
I still have, like, for nostalgia's sake, I still have fondness for the mask.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, Unity Day, Chris. Remember the Unity Day?
Yeah, which I love that's just kind of there's no real Unity Day, right?
No,
that's a totally bullshit made up.
No, everyone in New York, we all wait for Unity Day.
Your parents took little baby New Yorker Altaf.
Yeah, we have a whole album that's just Unity Day pictures.
Yeah, like a little hot dog in your hand. A little cigarette in the other.
Oh,
the little Newsies cab.
So every baby was a classic New York baby that felt like they were from 70s, like Martin Scorsese, New York.
Little trench coat.
This city's gone to the dumps. It's Baby New Yorker. This is a good character.
All right, cool.
All right, we'll bring it back.
Yeah, listeners.
When we do Spider-Man 2, let's bring Baby New Yorker
If any
back.
listeners are like really good with Photoshop, can you email us a Photoshop picture, like Photoshop Altaf's face over a baby and make a little Baby New Yorker? I'd love that.
I'll give you my bald version so you can take.
Yeah,
this
if you're on the
use this image. All right, cool. Anything? I want to move on to MJ really quickly before we get to like the final act.
Okay, cool. Which we haven't even touched on Harry either. Funny enough, we've lightly touched on him, but
there's a lot to talk about with Harry in the second movie. Yeah. We're gonna do the second movie, I hope. By the way, we haven't mentioned, and I don't think you can see it in the episode, but I'll send a picture of it to our. I'll take a video of it, and in this episode, I can share.
Oh, you're gonna sync it up live.
Okay, so we have a Spider-Man poster right there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's never been on camera, so it's just really funny that it's right there. But like,
yeah, has it never been in any like? I mean, I guess not, because the poster's over there anyway.
I just put it there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about MJ and Harry. Harry, I remember at one point I told you, is James Franco bad in this movie? And I take that back. I think James Franco is good. It's just that in this movie he has a pretty like he has a kind of role that's just like, why? What's going on?
He's a really mellow, like shy guy,
and
like a little brooding,
confused young adult.
Yeah.
Where he's been raised by a very distant rich dad. When you go home to Norman Osborn's house, it's so hollow and empty. Very different from Uncle Ben and Aunt May's house, right? Where it feels so much more homey. And he just thinks of money. Like when he's calling MJ and asking if she's okay, he's like, I'll buy you something. I'll make you feel better. Like,
yeah, because that's the only way he knows how to show love, because that's the only way he's been shown love.
Now, MJ. We'll talk, like we said, we'll talk more about Harry and Spider-Man 2.
Jane Watson.
I've said this to you before in our Spider-Man commentary, which you can listen to on our Patreon, but also
we put it out publicly. It's literally like probably 3 or 4 videos ago or something.
Yeah, when we couldn't upload a podcast episode, we just put out our Spider-Man commentary. But I mentioned this in our commentary, but Kirsten Dunst as MJ was my first crush.
That's pretty cool. I'm sure many people's first crush.
Was she a crush for you? I forget.
No, she wasn't. I think I loved the movie, but in a weird way, I was like this.
I loved the acting in it.
It was like, for me, it was like, oh, she's not mine, she's Peter's. You know what I mean? I love the couple. Like, they were my friends,
That's funny. For me, I was just like, I want to be Peter so I can be with her.
I remember.
But you don't have like on-screen crushes. You
I
never
don't have
had
a lot.
that.
No, I'm not a big on-screen crush guy. It's a little weird, but it's just, I don't know. But what was it? There were a handful of scenes throughout the movie when I first saw it in theaters that my parents instinctively covered my eyes. So one of them in the beginning was when Green Goblin killed the poor assistant dude, back to formula, threw him out. My parents just covered my eyes during that part. And also covered my eyes when, Uncle Ben's killer fell out the window. And then another one is during that kiss scene.
Yeah, man. So that's something I really wanted to talk about, is that this movie is so romantic and sexy, which are two things that are kind of like gone in a lot of superhero movies.
And sometimes just movies in general, to be completely honest.
In movies, it might be coming back, which is nice.
Yeah, we got some good ones coming back. And I think there's an itching for that too. Even like, I remember people talked about it with that new, remind me of the show with Jack Quaid and Kristen Bell.
Jack Quaid and Kristen Bell.
Wait, not Jack Quaid. Fuck, what was his name? I always mix their names up.
Adam Brody.
Sorry, the other handsome, skinny white guy.
Yeah.
People were talking about their kiss scene as like, ooh, that was like a little spicy for
it.
I think
people are aching for that. Yeah. I think what happened is that we're obviously out of rom-coms, right? So now people really want the rom-com to come back. But outside of that, I feel like rom-coms are obvious, right? They're going to be sexy and romantic. But I'm talking about in general movies, I feel like it's gone, where it used to be a thing. And I'm not saying people need to be fucking all the time, but we need sex in movies again. Like we need that, because that's part of life. I remember Linklater said that when he was promoting Hitman, because Hitman has like sex scenes, it's a sexy movie.
Yeah.
And Linklater's like, I find it weird that that's just gone in movies now, because like that's life. It's there. Like that's a big part. Romance and sex, it's all a big part of life. Anyways, not to go on a tangent, but it stood out watching this of how sexy that kiss is.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, I was kind of like, whoa, like I got excited about it.
You know what's funny is like as a kid, I respected my parents' wishes to cover my eyes. So when I watched a movie by myself, I did turn my head during certain
That's
scenes.
very sweet. That's actually very wholesome. It's like, all right, I can't watch
Yeah,
this.
literally, that was me.
That's actually very wholesome. I like that.
But still, I definitely agree, and I always love the lore that like
they were
Tobey
miserable
Maguire,
filming it.
Yeah, the Tobey Maguire literally could not breathe because the mask was covering his nose.
And then they had fake rain.
Yeah, well, and during the kiss, the rain was going up his nose, and he literally could not breathe. So he had to try not to die while they were kissing.
It was almost impossible to get that shot, and they did it. But like,
but people still cite it to this day.
Oh my God,
it's like one of the most. I mean,
it's in Spider-Verse.
It's in Spider-Verse. They reference it. Obviously, they make a nod to it in a Homecoming as well. Remember when the voice told him like kiss her, Peter, or whatever.
Oh, you mean when he's in the Washington Monument?
In that elevator, yeah, when he's like hanging upside down. And then also they joked about it in like Shrek 2. But it is among the ranks of like iconic movie scenes. You know, when people think of like big.
I always
imagery.
thought it was in one of the comics. Like I just thought image was in the comics because it feels like a comic book image.
Yeah, well, and also the context too of like, he saved her twice. At this point,
I feel like I have a superhero stalker.
Yeah, he's like, you have a knack for getting in trouble. He's super like charming and cute
when he's in the suit.
When he's in the suit, yeah,
because he doesn't have to be himself. That is a great addition of just like when he's in the suit, he's so confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So backtrack from that though. This is such a believable romance. Like this couple, I just like buy so hard, and I think it works because in 2 and 3, they do a good job of like expanding their relationship and adding complexity to it. But I think the way this movie starts is a classic, like the boy wants the girl that's out of his league.
That doesn't notice him.
And you think it's going to go that direction with the whole him catching it. Great reflexes. And then she just goes on with her life. But I think the scene that makes it different from any of those stories of like nerdy guy can't get the hot girl is that taking out the garbage backyard scene.
Yes. Yeah, when they actually speak to one another.
It is like up there as one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, honestly, both of their dialogue scenes. And I say, well, they have a couple more than just 2, but when I say that, I mean like the trash scene, like you're referencing, and then also after when he finds her after she finishes her waiting shift too.
In what? Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the trash scene. Yeah. We'll do both of those now.
Cool.
Trash scene, I think the reason it stands out to me is one, it's Peter's genuinely curious about MJ and what she wants to do with her life. And not only that, there's that cute moment where he's like, I almost cried when you played.
I cried like a baby when you played Cinderella. It's like, Peter, that was first grade.
Even so.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a corny and cheesy line, but it's so fucking sincere.
Well, and it's consistent with Peter's character. He is a dork and he is going to be sweet, And
he remembered that. Is so sweet. And but I also, what works is that you can tell MJ's kind of into him and she's trying to throw him some signs that kind of overwhelm Peter a little bit.
He gets a little frozen, yeah.
But I also love that scene because aside from their romance or their like Peter's interest, there's the scene's also a lot about how like they're both finishing up high school soon. What are their goals? Plans. What are their ambitions? And like Peter has this like, I was thinking about moving into the city, and take up a photography job, and like they're talking about their future, and it's like that. It's that moment that Uncle Ben was talking about. You're transitioning into a life, and you're gonna be, you're gonna be turning into someone. Yeah, so, like you're gonna be turning into an adult.
Yeah, well, and it's the fact that Peter truly sees her as like a person.
Yeah,
that he's not like, because everyone else, Harry obviously, wants to buy her shit and is like, oh, you got to impress my dad, whatever. And Flash pulls into the, Flash is Flash, he has his car. Look at my new car. And Peter's the only one that gives her the time of day and just supports her dream of wanting to act and is like, oh, that'd be fucking awesome if you did that. I know he doesn't literally say that, but that's the energy he gives off for her,
Yeah.
And I think one of my favorite exchanges they have in the movie, and I wish more people kind of talked about it, is at the end of the trash scene, how she says, you're taller than you look. And he just goes, I hunch. And she's like, don't. It's like such a, like the subtext is so good of like really what that means. It's like, you're kind of hot when you're confident is really what that means. But it's done in the perfect awkward Peter way of just saying, I hunch. Like, I don't know who the hell says that.
it's a great line.
Yeah.
It's also a scene, again, not to fucking put too fine a point on it, but a scene that just wouldn't exist today.
Mm-hmm.
It's so loving and so caring for its characters, you know?
It's so unapologetically corny, too.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm so glad it exists. And what makes it awesome is that in 2, they do the same scene again, but they've gotten older and they're a little bit more weathered.
Yeah. You know, there's more at stake between them.
I know.
Good
2
stuff.
rules. We'll talk about 2.
Yeah, we'll get to 2 one day.
2 will just be us screaming for 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, I just want to talk about Alfred Molina all day. Like 2 is just going to be me like raving about Alfred Molina. Okay, so let's talk about the final act.
Okay, did you want to touch on the Moondance coffee waiting scene? Okay. We can be quick about it. I know this episode's been going for a little while, but same deal though, that Peter actually sees her as a person, because she tries to kind of weasel her way through to saying I just did a gig. She was saying she's doing an acting gig, and then she gets yelled at by fucking Enrique. Miss Watson, I'm talking to you.
Yes, hey. Enrique, I get you.
And he's like, don't let it happen again. Don't roll your eyes at me. Whatever he says.
The line that always gets me is Peter telling her, oh no, it's okay. You have a job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nothing to be embarrassed about.
You have a job. I love that Peter said that, just because, that stage of your life, especially like right after college, where you're not doing exactly what you had dreamed of, that you were promised that after college you'll have that career. And if you're not doing that, you always feel like, what am I doing just working at a restaurant?
Failing, yeah.
And Peter saying that it's okay, you have a job, is just like, makes you feel nothing to be embarrassed about. You have a job. It makes me feel okay.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, yeah, a lot of this, we talked about this briefly off mic, and I noticed it in my most recent watch through of this movie to prepare for this podcast, is that a lot of the characters are kind of dealing with the job market in different ways. There's a lot of that going around. Obviously with Peter trying to find work fresh out of high school, doing his pictures of Spider-Man, which we haven't even fucking talked about Mr. Jameson yet. But then Mary Jane trying to, struggling to be an actress, and even, Norman Osborn threatening to have his funding pulled by the General Slocum or whatever his name is. I don't know why I remember his name, but
yeah,
there's like kind of an unsaid theme of this movie of like people finding themselves through their work.
Well, in that way, it's also a very New York movie. I think that's what I love about it, is that it's not just Spider-Man casually swinging through New York. It's that it's a New York movie in the sense is that everyone's in the mud pit together. Like you said, Uncle Ben and Aunt May are struggling financially. MJ is struggling to trying to find a job and trying to make it in the big city, become an actress. Peter's broke, like always, and trying to get a job as a photographer in the newspaper. Like, so not to just repeat your point, but like it has that like New York feeling of it, of just like, we're all in this fucking weird, wonderful, scary city together.
Yeah, and they're all just trying to get by.
And that's another thing with the Tom Holland movies. It feels like it doesn't even give a shit that it's from New York. Anyways.
We're just sneaking in our little... I know. I know we need to get to the final act, but should we give some shouties, or should we because I do want to talk about Mr. Jameson.
Let's talk about Mr. Jameson. This is going to be a longer episode.
He's one of the most, I was going to say we're there, but he's one of the most important characters in a weird way. When you and I saw this movie at the screening we talked about in theaters, I remember, because when it cuts to him, it's such a perfect theater character intro when he has the newspaper covering him. He's like, who is Spider-Man? He's a criminal. That's who he is. And, he lowers his newspaper. As soon as he did that, the entire theater erupted in applause for him. It's like, a public menace. What's he doing on my front page?
It was the biggest applause break in the theater. It was like, he is... Oh my God, his scenes are fucking electric.
They're so funny, dude. And I almost feel like I catch new little jokes each time. Obviously Mr. Jameson, your wife's online. She can't find your checkbook. Thanks for the good news. They throw in these quick little jabs.
His nonverbal gestures are my favorite.
Oh yeah, him doing the hang up, and then also
him pointing to Ted Raimi to get out.
Well, yeah, even early on when it was Mr. Jameson, your wife's online, he just picks up the phone and hangs up.
How good is Ted Raimi in those scenes too? He plays that kind of...
Oh yeah, Hoffman.
He plays that meek, dorky, newspaper guy.
He's like, no, he's like, move it to page 7. I can't do that. It's impossible. Get out of here.
That whole newspaper Daily Bugle section of the movie, and all the sections of that include Daily Bugle, they all feel like their own movie, like their own world. It has
its own isolated pace and its own tone that's completely separate from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and obviously too, they double down on it.
Yeah.
The moment that always, like, even as a kid, fucking I loved, throws a cigar out the window.
Oh yeah.
Peter leaves, and then the cigar comes back, and he's like, "Huh?"
And then I almost said Mr. Goblin. I almost said
Mr. Goblin.
Mr. Goblin.
Put some respect on his name.
Yeah, then he bursts in. And then obviously everyone's talked about this, but when he's like, who's the photographer that takes the pictures of Spider-Man? How he says he doesn't know.
Yeah.
How he doesn't throw Peter under the bus. It's pretty sick. I'm like, he's a respectable man at the end of the day.
He also, like, even though he's cheap as hell, he still is that guy that's just like, all right, you'll get 300 for this. Like, he's still, like, kind of just being like, okay, you're a kid, it's fine.
Yeah.
And I kind of love that. He's a hard ass is all he is. Can I also just say how much I fucking love this scene with Elizabeth Banks and Tobey Maguire, where he's like,
and he's like, welcome to the Daily Bugle.
He's like, thank you. And like, she's pretty, so he's kind of excited that she noticed him. And he's like, what does he say to her?
He just is like, I'm a photographer.
I'm a photographer. And then she just like looks up at him and then keeps looking down. I remember like the whole theater laughed, but it's also that moment of just like, okay, I'm not that interested.
And she's like, yes, I can see that.
It's such a tiny jab at Peter. I'm just being like, don't think you have a chance with this woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has such youthful, like, spry energy.
I don't know, that moment always stuck out to me.
Like, I remember like when I was first going to go to a screenwriting school.
Yeah.
I did like a little meeting with, I think some student, like, I forgot the title of the job, but he was someone that like kind of helped introduce students to the school. Basically, he's this old dude who's worked in the industry before too, and so he sat down with me. Very intense personality. I was like 18, maybe 17. Telling him like, yeah, no, I mean, I want to make movies. Maybe I also like acting, so it'd be cool to direct and actually. Okay, so well, here, we bring you to reality, where like this, like he had this kind of thing of like, almost like, okay, that's cute. Like he didn't give a fuck that I said
yeah.
Because he's probably met a million people like me. And I always remember that. But I think something about this kind of has that energy of like Peter coming in. I'm a photographer. I got my pictures of Spooderman, and they're like, all right, kid.
Even though he has access that no one else has.
I know. He has incredible pictures of Spider-Man.
Yeah, and like J. Jonah Jameson, like the only reason he doesn't compliment them because he doesn't want Peter to start asking for a higher rate.
Exactly.
He's
He
like,
has to be
shit,
unimpressed.
shit.
Yeah.
He doesn't say shit.
He says crap, mega crap. Give you 200. That seems a little low. Anyway.
God, J.K. Simmons, man.
Yeah.
So good. Let's talk about the final act.
Okay.
Leading into the final act is the Thanksgiving scene.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving scene because Peter and Goblin.
I know you want to talk about the Thanksgiving scene, but it's a little bit of a stretch to say leading into the final act. A lot happens between the final act and the Thanksgiving.
I was going to transition well. I promise.
I was like, wait, hang on.
I'll land.
Aunt May hasn't even been attacked by him yet.
No. We won't talk about the Aunt May attack scene. There's so much we can talk about.
So Act 3 begins.
Okay, what I was going to say is that Thanksgiving scene is obviously the scene where Goblin kind of finds out that Peter is Spider-Man.
Yeah, because he sees the blood on his wrist that matched the blood when he cut himself in the burning building. Right. And famously, like Peter's wearing the green suit and then Willem Dafoe is wearing the red and blue suit, that they both kind of are wearing each other's colors. It's very cool psychological storytelling. And obviously, famously, like Spider-Man on the ceiling while they all look in there and the drop of blood drips in the ground. All that's good shit,
I guess there's not much to talk about, but I just wanted to mention it. But the moment that I fucking love, that in the entire scene, well, two things. One is like after the fire, there's that great Sam Raimi transition of Willem Dafoe in the elevator sweating.
When he says like, no one says no to me. And then it crossfades to him like with his eyes rolling back where you can just tell at this point he's losing his shit.
And then my favorite moment is Aunt May kind of snapping at Willem Dafoe, like slapping us, like, would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, Norman.
She's so good. Rosemary is so good. Okay, let's actually talk about the final act now.
Real quick, I also want to address Norman when he goes off on Harry and like totally insults Mary Jane too.
Ruthless.
Yeah. Do what you need to with her, then broom her fast. He slams the elevator. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And then Harry handles it like a fucking asshole too.
Yeah, MJ's like, thanks for standing up for me.
And then he's like, that's my father. If I'm lucky, I'll be half the man he was. Keep your mouth shut about things you don't understand. I'm like, dude.
You want to be half the man he is? That guy?
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. So obviously MJ gets kidnapped as per every Spider-Man movie.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
That's something we just have to reckon with. That every Spider-Man movie, she gets kidnapped.
Green Goblin gives Spider-Man an ultimatum, essentially. He's holding Mary Jane in one hand. He's holding a little, what are they, like a little cable car? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
You're a New Yorker, I mean, you've been a New Yorker since you were a little toddler, so.
Well, I was baby New Yorker.
You were a baby New Yorker. But yeah, he says, something about coming face to face with the sadistic choice, whatever he says.
Yeah, there's an amazing reflection shot of his eyes.
He drops them both, and then there's a shot of Spider-Man's eyes reflecting on one hand. One side is Mary Jane. It's a good visual metaphor of Peter's life crossing into each other.
Then, and speaking of Sam Raimi's New York and how he includes civilians in a Spider-Man movie, Sam Raimi's New Yorkers start like throwing shit at Green Goblin.
Yeah.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. It's such a rousing moment. And so a really moving story I heard was Blank Check, when they covered Spider-Man, they were talking about how this movie came out in 2002, a year after 9/11.
Oh, you told me about this off mic, but share for the listeners.
It's such a moving story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
And I think Griffin was saying how, like, I think it was his experience going to theaters, or he heard his friend had this experience. But this was soon after 9/11. New York was still at this, like, rocky, insecure place, right? And apparently, when that line was said, or New Yorkers, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us, the theater erupted into applause.
Yeah.
Because it was this applause of like, and I'm like choking up saying this right now, but it was an applause of just like them being like proud and them feeling like Spider-Man's like this movie's for them.
Yeah. It's almost like everyone's kind of healing through what New York's been through this movie.
Yeah, and it's such an important New York movie.
This kind of shared collective trauma.
Exactly. It's kind of that sense of just like, I remember recently I was watching the Rams play, the LA Rams and everything. And I don't really care I don't watch sports, but it was soon after the LA fires. Yeah. And I remember it was not that important of a game, but the Rams won. And we all knew that they would win. Like, at least the people who were watching it around me knew that they would win. But everyone reacted like it was like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But it was because LA needed that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what sports, that's what art can do.
Yeah, like the way it can bring a community together to kind of release that feeling.
Yeah,
that everyone kind of collectively suffered through.
Isn't that so moving hearing that about Spider-Man, though?
Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
Okay, so we get to the final fight. An amazing set.
Are you talking about when Green Goblin like slings Spider-Man into the destroyed building?
Yeah.
Or the abandoned hospital?
Yes.
Yeah.
We get to the final fight. It's an amazing set. I'll just always remember how fucking brutal that fight scene is.
Green Goblin beats the shit out of Spider-Man at this point.
It's the sound design. The music is completely out. Like, there's no music. It's all like every punch is maxed out to a 10. There's so many shots of Peter getting hit and going through slow-mo, and you hear his breathing a lot.
You hear his breathing and like the wind being knocked out of him.
Which
weird like these weird little kind of inhaling noises that people really do make when they get the wind knocked out of them, when they get the crap beat out of them.
I watched, not to get too dorky, but I watched that scene to study it for its sound design, because it's a great example of how using sound you can create an immersive experience for the audience and make them feel like you are that character.
Well, and the way the camera whips with every punch too, and like the way it cuts, it's so perfectly shot and edited and sound designed and acted.
It feels like you're getting your ass beat.
Yeah, exactly. And like you see, I've always loved when Spider-Man gets his suit torn up, because you can see his emotions through the mask at the same time, but he's getting, There's no Marvel movie that I've seen that has their character get beat up like that. They've all tried to attempt it.
I mean, Far From Home, I remember that moment where like he's finally done with Jake Gyllenhaal and then he kind of limps towards the MJ. They try to do that.
But I could still see the CGI on his suit where I'm like, maybe, I don't know if that was an afterthought or something like that. But this one had he is sweaty. He is dirty. He is gross looking because he's been knocked into this dusty old abandoned thing. You know, he looks like a guy that really just got the crap beat out of him.
Well, Sam Raimi's both good at both comically and dramatically beating the shit out of his characters.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man 2, he does both. So
yeah, absolutely.
when you watch this fight scene now, how does it make you feel?
I mean, the same as it always makes me feel. You know, it always makes me feel like, come on, Spider-Man, you can do it. You know, it makes me into that little kid again,
right?
Cheering on my friend.
Dude, the same thing. It's that same feeling of like your best friend and you just want the best for him.
Well, I love what motivates him though, is like, because he's losing this fight. You're watching it and you're like, every move he makes, that's what also what makes it effective is that he's trying new things. Like how he tries to fight back and then he tries to web away and then he gets punched down. Then he tries to create a web wall thing to protect himself. None of it works. And what makes him actually fight back is as soon as Green Goblin threatens Mary Jane. As soon as he says, like, you know, I'm going to finish her nice and slow. You know, whatever, MJ and I are going to have a hell of a time. And that's when he grabs it and then pushes back hard and then knocks him back. And that's when he regains his strength and confidence when he realizes, like, his loved ones are at stake.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't care about his own life because it was his own sacrifice. He's like, okay, I fucking tried. You know?
I 100% agree. And then I'll let you talk about it because you'll probably nail the dialogue better than I will. But let's talk about
So he pulls the wall down. Green Goblin comes out like a zombie of the pile of bricks.
Oh, I mean, yeah, every Sam Raimi movie has to have that one shot of an arm coming through from the underworld.
But Spider-Man beats the crap out of Green Goblin in return. You know, he's punching him, he's wailing on him. And eventually, you know, he quote unquote turns back into Norman Osborn. He's like, Peter, stop, it's me. Whatever. He reveals himself to be Norman Osborn. And that's when Peter lets his guard down and he's like, oh shit. You know, and he starts putting everything together. It's like, he says, like, you killed those board members. You tried to kill my Aunt May. Like, he's like, what the fuck? And even as an audience, if you're watching it the first time, you might believe him too. You might think like, oh shit, maybe he actually brought him back. And meanwhile, secretly, he's summoning the glider behind him. And he ends up saying, you know, I've been like a father to you. Be a son to me. And this is what I think what you really wanted me to cue me up to say is he ends up telling him, I have a father. His name was Ben Parker. And then that's when you zoom in.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
And then, you know, the glider comes in, he backflips to dodge it, and then it crash zooms to Norman's eyes as he realizes, then he just goes, oh, then the glider impales him.
So the editing of that sequence, that small sequence, Sam Raimi messes with time so much in the edit to where it feels like the glider takes like a solid, it doesn't take this long, but the glider takes a solid minute to hit.
Yeah.
Whoa. I'm sorry, guys.
You know what's funny? Right before we recorded this, Altaf literally asked me, he's like, oh, do you mind if I pump the water bottle? I don't think it looks bad on camera. That like knocks it over. Like,
but yeah, the editing of that is really funny. But
there's a whole video essay analyzing the editing of that particular moment, isn't there?
Oh, really?
I want to say there is, where it breaks apart like the use of making the glider like feel longer, of why it's effective still.
I need to check that out.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
So we'll find it and we'll link it in the description.
Yeah, we'll link it in the description. We'll pop it up visually. You know,
cool.
You know how we do.
Okay. Well, then there's that final moment right before he dies where he's like, "Don't tell Harry."
Yeah.
He brings Norman Osborn back to Harry's quarters.
I just thought of a joke. Can I tell it to you? So he says, don't tell Harry. You know, that's the whole thing that makes like Peter have to live this kind of fucked up lie, because Harry's under the impression that, you know, Spider-Man killed his father and he vows revenge. What if like it ends like how Amazing Spider-Man 1 ends, where they hear some sort of lecture in class about like keeping secrets, and Peter leans in behind Harry and is like, but those are the best kinds, or whatever.
Or he leans behind Norman.
No, he leans behind Harry because he's going to tell him the truth now, you know.
But those are the best kinds.
And then he slowly zooms in on James Franco, kind of smirking a little.
What a dumb ending. Anyways, so I mean, this final moment, I remember as a kid, it fucking shocked me that he didn't get with MJ.
Oh, yeah. I had to cover. Oh, well, that too. Yeah. I'm gonna cover real quick that like when he dies, my family covered my eyes for that too.
Oh,
because it's
really?
still pretty brutal. Like he has blood coming out of his mouth. He's all dirty, and it's like he impales like his lower belly too.
Yeah, man, blood is I feel like blood is very much kind of gone in a lot of like Marvel movies.
At least
now.
practical blood. There's like once in a while like alien CG blood.
Yeah,
or like little cute, like they're like cute blood, you know, maybe like a little bloody nose, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't see people get like beat up badly a lot.
Anyways, so yeah, I think as a kid, it fucking shocked me because, as you know, now, and as the audience knows, huge crush on MJ, and I was like, she just tells him, "I love you so much." Like she's like throwing herself at him, and he's finally learned the hard truth of like the people I'm close to will be in danger because of what I chose to be.
His responsibilities, took
With great power comes great responsibility.
Took priorities. Yeah.
He walks away. Leaves her hanging in the back. You can see her blurred out. She's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, she just stands
I
there.
thought you liked me and you were like obsessed with me.
Which poor MJ, I gotta say, throughout, I mean, not too much poor MJ, because in the second movie she has to pick between fucking Spider-Man or an astronaut.
Yeah.
But Peter is so wishy-washy with her throughout Spider-Man 1 and 2, and I just feel bad of like the way he plays with her emotions.
Yeah, I know, man.
But yeah, so he basically vows, to commit to it. And he says in his narration, all I wanted was to tell her how I felt, but who am I? I'm Spider-Man. Then we go to the final swing of him ripping through, and then he gets on the American flag and the movie ends. But I know that was painful for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's okay. But yeah, the ending's great.
Yeah, you talk about this final swing. I know you want to talk
I don't
about
know what to say about it now, but it's just the Danny Elfman music, him swinging through the city, and the way Sam Raimi, I know it's not like an actual camera following, but I know that they actually had a camera through in a helicopter go through the New York City skyline to get an reference images of what they're going to be doing.
Yeah.
And when you're following Spider-Man in that final swing, you feel like you're flying with him. I don't know how else to put it. It's so
especially at the time when it came out, like seeing it look like that was crazy,
right? And it's so, like I'm not lying. I might choke up just talking about it, but it is like so special to me to see him swing and to have. It's like that music that how we talk about Hans Zimmer's like Batman music and how that just feels like Batman music. That just feels like a Batman.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Danny Elfman's Spider-Man music, which I know it's funny. He did the Tim Burton Batman stuff too. But I don't know, man. It's just really special. The American flag.
Yeah, him landing on the American flag.
However you feel about this country, if you don't feel patriotic after watching that.
I know, right? Yeah, man. And then right when the credits roll, we hear famously Chad Kroeger and Josie Scott's Hero.
Yes, okay.
Which I just want to say for the record, guys, that song is not Nickelback. It's Chad Kroeger featuring Josie Scott. Can we please put that to rest?
I'm glad you put this out there.
I just want to throw that in there because I see all the time people do covers of the song on YouTube and they'll be like, by Nickelback. I'm like, it's not Nickelback.
Yeah.
You can feel Nickelback's fingerprints because it's Chad fucking Kroeger, but still.
God, man. You showed me the music video to this and I was like, oh, this is great. Chad Kroeger, Hero, awesome. And then during the song, when he gets to that part of just a hero and then it hard cuts to like Spider-Man swinging with the music going on. I exclaimed, I'm like, oh man,
it works, man.
It's so effective. That song is a great, like,
it's a good Spider-Man song. Yeah.
I remember you started talking to me about that small rant that you went on about it's not Nickelback. People always mess it up. Right when we went to our screening when we went to a screening of Spider-Man last year. When the credits started rolling, that's the first thing you brought up. I was like, by the way, everyone says this is a Nickelback song. It's not. Also, if you listen to the lyrics, it's a great Spider-Man song.
I know. I am that guy. The movie wasn't over to me at that point because I think you were like ready during the credits. Like, what'd you think? That movie was good.
I wanted to talk about the movie.
Done. I was like, we're not done yet.
Chris, also, I mean, maybe we've talked about this. You have such a solid memory of like what song played in what credits of what movie. Like, okay, so we'll be at a
just movie scenes too, just in
movie
general.
Scenes, sure, but I hear you a lot being like, this song played in the credits of this movie. And I'm pointing this out because it will be at a coffee shop. It'll be so fucking loud. The music is basically tiny background where you really have to pay it. You have to like want to listen to it. You and I could have a serious conversation about our lives, and you'd be like, by the way, this played in the second X-Men movie credits.
You make me sound like Rain Man or something.
To me, it kind of is. You have this like weird ear for it.
That's my superpower,
Yeah.
Before we wrap up this podcast, I'm going to throw out some shouties of stuff we haven't really gone deep into. Opening credits. Shouty did the opening credits.
Lovely.
With the Danny Elfman score and everything. Shouty to Bruce Campbell. And that whole like
coming up with Spider-Man as a name,
the wrestling scene in general, and Macho Man Randy Savage. Hey, Big Show.
I was gonna do that.
Oh, you go ahead.
Bone size ready.
You're going nowhere. I got you for 3 minutes. 3
minutes of playtime.
Ding Anyway.
Cage! That's the most fucked up part about it. It suddenly turns into a cage fight?
I know you didn't even ask for it or anything.
Oh, yeah, Octavia Spencer's also great.
Oh, yeah, in that tiny little scene.
What I like about her in that
May God help you.
What you're doing right now, if you guys are not watching, Chris is using his eyes really well because Octavia Spencer, look at her eyes. She's basically the entire time talking to him, sizing him up with her eyes. She's so good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Shouty to the fight scene between Flash and Peter.
Oh,
that
yeah.
whole like the cafeteria scene in general too. Like that whole sequence when he flings the thing on her, catching MJ, all that stuff.
Where he actually caught it in real life.
Yeah, it's all that. Shouty as well to when he first becomes Spider-Man and puts on the costume and all that. How it does that montage of all the different New Yorkers talking about him and how
Chris, thank you so much for mentioning that.
I'm just trying to acknowledge that
I love it because it feels like they got actual guys.
I know. Could be a man, could be a woman. Okay.
What else you got? Can I get a Shouty?
Yeah.
He sees the newspaper ad for a car and then thinks, and suddenly it crossfades with an image of MJ smiling and then a car whizzing by the same shot.
It's like they're showing his thought process visually.
It's so funny.
Yeah. Last Shouty, I think, is going to have to go to when Aunt May was praying and Green Goblin just fucking rips through and she's like, deliver us. He's like, finish it. Finish it. It's like, oh my God, you sick bastard.
Oh my God, she thinks the devil just showed up.
Well, I mean, imagine being an old lady that's fucking horrifying.
And you're praying and
like that's so sad. Real quick, do you know about that line's been memed when Peter finds out that Mary Jane's been kidnapped? How he's on the phone in the hospital and you hear he's like, can Spider-Man come out to play? Have you seen that scene gets reused?
For what?
For Instagram reels and stuff, they'll put captions and be like, when it's late and you're home, he wants to play video games with you.
Okay, this is a good place to wrap up. Favorite, and you can only pick memes from the first one. Favorite Spider-Man meme.
Okay. Probably I missed the part, but that's my problem.
Okay.
That's probably my favorite because I just see comment sections use that for literally everything Tobey Maguire's in. Even devastating scenes in other movies, they'll still fucking put that comment in.
Like Schindler's List.
The movie Brothers. Yeah. Can I tell you about a scene that happens in it? Do you plan to watch that movie?
Is it the scene where Toby freaks out?
No. It's earlier in the movie.
Okay,
so
spoilers for people who haven't seen Brothers.
Yeah. There's a scene when him and his comrade are held captive by the enemy. And he's held at gunpoint, and he's literally forcing Tobey Maguire to kill his squad mate. It's a horrifying scene, right? He's literally forcing him because they're recording it,
right? And
they're breaking him mentally and saying want to see your family again, kill him, And so he ends up screaming, and it's this really disturbing scene. So naturally, the comments are going to be like, his squad may be like, no, please don't. I missed the part where that's my problem. People are already commenting Spider-Man jokes.
Okay, so my favorite is a edited video someone made.
Okay.
Where Flash Thompson, instead of accidentally punches MJ, and then it hard cuts to MJ getting knocked out in Spider-Man 3 and falling to the ground, and then it cuts back to Flash being like... It makes me laugh so hard.
Oh yeah, I think that was it Toby in the MCU? There's a really big channel that grew called Toby in the MCU.
And now it's bittersweet because Toby in the MCU, I mean,
they stopped as soon as he actually appeared.
Respect.
Yeah.
And it did a goodbye post and it was kind of wholesome, but he was doing God's. I mean, I feel like Toby in the MCU kind of got both you and I through the pandemic a little bit.
Oh yeah, I know. It's another meme line that I love is when he comes, he's like, sorry I'm late. I had to beat an old lady with a stick to kill.
That also, I will say, in our theater, that got an applause break.
I know, dude.
Okay, guys, if we don't stop right now, this episode's going to take forever to edit. Thank you so much for listening. This movie, as you can tell, was a really special movie to us. No, we're not going to stop because I have to read out what someone wrote us.
Oh, yeah.
We asked you guys how this movie changed you, and you wrote in at moviesthatchangedus@gmail.com.
Sorry, Daniel, if you've been listening to this episode waiting for us to get to your part, and you're like, oh, shit, they're wrapping up.
We are not. We are going to get to it right now. And also, guys, we always put up posts announcing what movie we're going to do and where you can email us your write-in for how that movie changed you on YouTube community posts, on our Instagram at Movies That Changed Us, and also on our Patreon.
Yeah, our email is moviesthatchangedus@gmail.com. So just stay in the stay in the loop of what we're working on next. We do like reading out your guys' answers.
So our regular write-in, Daniel Walsh, wrote, "Hi, nice dudes. I'm super excited for this one. This was one that I've been waiting for you to cover for a while now."
I like the voice you're giving Daniel, by the way. Hi, nice dudes.
I know.
Hey, I'm Daniel.
My voice is kind of shot, so I'm trying
me
to
to read it?
I'm trying to overcorrect. No, I got it.
Okay, cool.
I started it. I need to finish this. If I remember correctly, this was my first superhero movie. My dad had caught the second half of Spider-Man 2 on TV one day and called me into the room when I was about 18. Good when I was about 8, which is a good dad move. I'm just going to add right there. And just like that, I love Spider-Man. About a week had passed and my dad was going through DVDs and he pulled out Spider-Man 1 and we watched it together, and it was one of the most important movies in my personal life.
That's right. It should be.
The storytelling was so incredible because it introduced me to the character and I was able to follow everything. This is my definitive Peter Parker because he is the one that I grew up with. It's kind of like James Bond in that way, you know?
Yeah. Or Batman or something.
And the Green Goblin is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. All this is a testament to how well written the film is.
David Koepp.
Fucking David Koepp recently wrote Black Bag. Love it. I love every cheesy line, and I even love Spider-Man 3 quite a bit for that reason. Hey, man. Fight for Spider-Man 3. While this film isn't my favorite superhero movie, that goes to Batman 89. Wow, okay. This is still one that defined my current obsession with the superhero genre. Side note, the 2018 video game is one of my favorite games ever. That's about all I have to share. Until next time.
That game is amazing. I won't get into that game because I could talk about that for... I could do a whole other podcast dedicated to that game.
And believe it or not, I know I don't play that many video games. I've played that game. I've told Chris many times how it's my favorite, one of my favorite Spider-Man movies.
You got through like 3/4 of that game without leveling up once. It was like crazy.
Don't put that shit out there. What's wrong with you?
You would do the same if I did it too. You'd love to sneak it. You haven't seen that movie. You don't know this.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I deserve it. No, I'm just saying. He also said, other side note, you don't have to put this in the episode if you don't want to. Well, we will. Please do Jaws this soon for the 50th anniversary.
Dang, 50th anniversary? 50 years ago?
Yeah, man.
That's nuts. Okay, now we have to, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not that great. I'm just kidding.
So we don't like Jaws.
Yeah, that's our take. So if you want us to do it, we're getting into it.
We're going to rip apart Jaws.
And you know what? On that note, no, I'm just kidding. Of course, we'll do Jaws. We'll do. We love Jaws. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us again and again. We really appreciate it. Last but not least, Godspeed, Spider-Man.
By the way, now that we're split screen, pointing at our cameras makes us our hands go into each other's frames.
So let's do it in purpose.
We can kind of just do it. We'll just do it. Stay nice, dudes.
All right, I'll do it again.
Okay.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.